We are back with another episode of What's Next? Living Longer, Better, Smarter. We're happy to have you tune in, and we hope you find it time well spent. We have a great lineup in store. This episode, Health, Hearing, and Happiness, is made possible in part by Tokyo-based Living Best, a consumer-focused age tech initiative from the Carter Group. The initiative helps to advance promising new ventures and technologies with the resources and connections they need to succeed. Learn how they're empowering the future in the world's most aged society in Japan with the potential for global impact. For more, visit living-best.tech. And we are also supported by Super Aging News, your source for reliable information on longevity and wellness, work and on retirement, your money, lifestyle, and more. Sign up for the free newsletter and learn about their new book, The Super Aging Workbook, at superagingnews.com. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with Mary Furlong, with a new title, Chief Longevity Officer at Mary Furlong and Associates. Hi, Mary.
Hi, yes, I read about it in Forbes that companies were starting to hire chief longevity officers, and I thought, well, let me change my title to that. I think 4,000 people commented on that post. So it's interesting how popular the idea is. And we sure have talent with us today. So time has been flying by, summer's gone. It's nearly October when I'll be 77 next week. So we have
Birthday.
Happy birthday in advance. Yes.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Uh, so we
Everyone's
have,
meeting all of our guests already to wish you a happy
yeah,
birthday, Mary.
thank you. Well, I knew we had people at all ages and stages in this podcast, so
We
tell
do.
us about it.
Well, autumn is the perfect time to talk about health, hearing, and happiness. We have a really stellar lineup for everyone. Joining us are our good friend, best-selling author of The Great Age Reboot and more, Chief Wellness Officer Emeritus at the Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Michael Roizen. Hi, Dr. Mike.
How are you? Thank you, Fred. It's a privilege to be here.
Well, great to see you again. And from Audion, with a new breakthrough to talk about in over-the-counter hearing help, CEO and co-founder Ishan Patel. Hi,
For
Ishan.
having me. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And from Super Aging News and co-author of the Super Aging Workbook, David Kravitz. Hi, David.
Hi, everybody. Honored to be here. Happy to meet Dr. Mike and Ishan.
Well, this is really a great lineup, and we hope they will all help us live healthier, live longer. Thank you for joining us on Living Longer, Better, Smarter. You've all been very busy. So, Dr. Mike, I'll start quickly with you. You've been telling us why it's so important to do things now because of coming breakthroughs.
As you know, in 1998, when Real Age came out, we said that 60 could be the new 40. It's happened, and now people can be about 20 years younger than their calendar age, based on changes they make in health that keeps them younger. We now believe that with an 80% likelihood, 90 can be the new 40. That is, and that's pretty tough to understand because what it means is you're going to get to be as young as your kids or grandkids physiologically. And yes, hearing is important in maintaining but the breakthroughs, there are 14 areas of research into the mechanism of aging. And as you know, when the first human genome was done, it was 3.1 billion and 10 years to do it. It's now $40 and 6 hours. So an 8,000-fold reduction in the cost of doing science, 12,000-fold reduction in the time, which means we can look at the basic mechanism of aging. And there are 14 hypotheses on these, each of which has a small molecule or technique that has taken two animal species from the equivalent of human 90 to the equivalent of human 40. So it literally is not just slowing the process, but reversing it. But as you know, you have to stay young to benefit from this. And so that's part of what we're going to talk about today, I believe. But in any case, let me give you three examples or four examples. One is senolytics. An old cell makes the cells around it old, just like a piece of rotten fruit puts out a new protein aromatic that makes the fruit around it old. Well, an old cell puts out a new protein, if you will, that causes the other cells around it to become connective tissue. You can think of it as if you were stabbed, you'd want to stop the bleeding, so you'd want connective tissue there rather than just dying cells. So that's what it does. But there's a small molecule now that in two animal species has taken old cells and made them young again by turning on two genes. So we now know the mechanism and can target those genes to do it with small molecules. Second process, we know that we repair things with our stem cells. When you have a heart attack, you get to a hospital soon, not only to save marginal tissue, but to call forth exosomes, which call forth your stem cells, which then repopulate. And in a case of a heart attack, over 6 weeks, your stem cells will grow into actual contractile cells that replace the damaged heart cells. But we have a limit on our stem cells. So there's both an offshoot company from MD Anderson and from Hopkins that have both now shown how they can regenerate or increase the length of stem cells. Not the expensive process of growing them in culture. That's actually happening too, but a very inexpensive process of letting you grow your own stem cells inside your body. And the third one is getting rid of old proteins. As we get older, our proteins get things on them. Glucose, for example, hemoglobin is a protein, gets glucose on it, it becomes hemoglobin A1C and doesn't release oxygen fast enough. So you can get rid of those old proteins by essentially a process called therapeutic plasma exchange and literally reverse Alzheimer's, which has been shown in the AMBAR studies, reverse long COVID, getting rid of if you will, the cytokines that are misformed. So there are three processes, and then the Gladstone in San Francisco has acquired both Dr. Yamanaka and Dr. Doda, both Nobel Prize winners, one in gene editing and one in epigenetics, and they now believe they can do the gene editing not at $1.2 million, which is what it costs for sickle cell gene editing now, and that's why only about 150 people have had it, but for bringing it down to $20,000, which then allows us over the next 2 years, in 2 years or more, to literally be able to cure sickle cell disease or to wipe out a lot of genetic diseases. So all 14 of these areas are moving very quick, and we think about 7 of them have entered human trials, so that within 5 years, Mary, you and Fred and I will be as young as Ishan.
Wow, wow. And you have something new coming along to help this out, right?
Well, it is a coaching program that is for longevity. We called it Youngevity because it is living younger for longer. So it is Youngevity, Youngevity for Youngevity.com. It's the coaching program that's made much less expensive than the one we have saved. We've used this at the Cleveland Clinic, obviously, in a different format, in a email or personal coaching program. Costs $50 to $70 a month here, but we've modified it, added much more to get you young and do it with AI. So it's much less expensive than that. So literally half of our margin in the last 12 years at the clinic has been because our CEO said, just pay our employees and dependents to get healthier and do it with the coaching program. We've done that and saved a little over 1.5 billion. And again, we have 101,000 employees and dependents, so it's been on a big scale. But 45% of them approximately have gotten to what we call six plus two normals. And now we can do this for many more people because it's much less expensive to be able to do it thanks to AI.
Well, I told everybody this would be time well spent and already proven right here. So
Oof.
I'm a longtime fan and follower, Dr. Micah. Eat foods that love you back. Love that line. A key component of physical and mental well-being is hearing. And Ishan Audion has taken the over-the-counter hearing assistance market by storm. Give us a quick background.
Oh, thank you, Fred. Well, first of all, Dr. Mike, I'm gonna reverse my age to 10, I guess, after we get this thing done, because that was extremely exciting. I'd love to connect with you further on all of those as a huge health and longevity proponent myself. But Fred, thank you. So hearing loss is ultimately a problem that affects 1 billion people in the world, making it one of the largest untreated medical conditions on planet Earth. And studies are coming out every single year now, linking it to Alzheimer's, dementia, depression, isolation, and really all the things that matter most in life, which is our ability to connect with each other and live life with our loved ones. And the staggering fact is that in that time, 80% of the world population of people with hearing loss don't wear hearing aids, right? If you think of eyeglasses in the same way, we've got 4 out of 5 attendees here wearing them. Imagine if all of you could not access them at all, or 3 out of 4 of you, would you be able to live your life at all? Could you even drive to work down the street? It's that level of dependency in your daily life and activity. Yet for some reason, hearing loss, which is actually way more closely linked to your brain health, right, is not treated or talked about in the same way at all. The most recent study was showing that use of hearing aids can reduce risk of dementia by as much as 61% in individuals over 70 years old. Harvard Health released a study showing that use of hearing aids lowers the risk of premature death, so literally just dying, by 24%. Having mild to moderate hearing loss increases your risk of dementia by 2 to 5x, depending on the type of hearing loss. And yet, hearing loss is kind of treated as a necessary evil of growing old, or, oh, grandpa's just aging, right? And that's how I first experienced hearing loss in my family and in my life, was when I was about 8 years old with my own grandfather. At the time, I was too young to understand that's what he was suffering from. And I just thought he didn't like me anymore. Because I have to say, hi, when saying happy birthday to somebody is what? Or I love you is what? Like, you're screaming at somebody affirmations of love that come across as almost negative now, right? And so those individuals suffering from the hearing loss detach. It's gradual, so maybe they don't notice it, and by the time they do, it's either too late or really developed. And the rest of their family and world just lets them fade into the background, almost organically and slowly over time. And that, I think, is the greatest shame, because then you create a disconnect between the variety of ages and stages on this call right now, where, I think for everything we're all trying to accomplish in this world, it requires the opposite. We should be communicating more closely, learning from each other, and collaborating, not just in business, but just in daily life. Because at the end of the day, Fred, what's the meaning of life? I think the answer is really easy. It's to live life and love the people you're connecting with. Like, that's the point, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing. It just matters that you get to be there and connect with the people around you. That's why there's not one human and there's billions of us. And so hearing loss is proven to be pretty much the number one challenge, problem. And really, I would go so far as to call it like a global epidemic that has not been talked about for whatever reason and not been solved in a big way. So Audient Hearing has done 3 things that really kind of changed the game that we're really proud of. Is that, one, we invented and released the world's first $98 over-the-counter hearing aid. Thanks to the FDA regulations changing a few years ago, and over-the-counter hearing aids being created to allow people to get hearing aids without a prescription, without a hearing test, and be able to access it for those who may not be able to get to the level of Medicare or medical care that the amazing Dr. Mike has over at the Cleveland Clinic, which, by the way, is where my mom grew up, in Cleveland. And bring it hopefully to the rest of the world and the rest of the country that it maybe doesn't want to take the step, or feels they can't or can't access it. So that's the first thing that really changed here. The second is we actually became the first over-the-counter hearing aid company in history to launch nationwide in retail with Walmart as a partner. Right. Since then, we've launched in Walgreens, CVS, and let's just say there's more coming that I can't publicly announce quite yet. and really are focusing on the second key component. If the $98 price point was affordability, it's accessibility. Even if I have an affordable product, if the individuals that need this can't access it in the way they want, not the way that they're told to, but the way that they feel they want, then that's a huge disconnect, and it's going to prevent us from serving the tens of millions of Americans in this country that need it and the billion people worldwide that need it. And then that led us to sort of becoming the number one selling over-the-counter hearing aid company in the world now. We have over 1 million customers nationwide, coming to almost 1.5 million now, and really are trying to bring this to the main stage by making hearing aids affordable, accessible, and frictionless, meaning that kind of breaks down into a few key areas. One, ease of use. You have to be able to use the hearing aid. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how incredible the technology is. It's a non-starter for most of the population. And two is stigma, right? Like we all live and die by human vanity. These are the kind of facts of life and the things we all need to come together and discuss. But people deserve to feel good, feel that they're comfortable, feel good at how they look, and feel good about wearing these hearing aids while getting those benefits, not be labeled as old or, aging, or frankly, just somebody that we should be putting in the background, like my grandfather experienced for decades, because technology like this didn't exist and the world wasn't talking about it. So that's a quick summary of sort of who we are and why we're here.
And Ishan, I've joined your board of advisors, and I saw your team. You have an amazing team that you've hired. And I saw them at the Sonoma Wellness Fair. And there was such enthusiasm on the part of the older adults, and they were so helpful to them. You don't have a very high return rate, correct?
No, we have pretty much the lowest return rate in the entire industry. I'm pretty intimately familiar with the rest of the industry, and based off of my knowledge, we have about less than half of the average return rate of kind of all the other products. And I think it really comes down to not just designing an affordable and accessible product that's easy to use, but also the service infrastructure required. So we're servicing 1 million, adults, mostly seniors, that are hard of hearing virtually, predominantly over the phones. So you might think that's an impossibility, but we've actually turned that into a core competency where we want to hear from our customers. We're fielding 10,000 interactions a week at this point, from phone calls to hearing specialist appointments. And we are hearing the hopes, the dreams, the struggles, the stories of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people a year, and millions of our customers at this point. And I think that is ultimately where our success is rooted. It's that we are bridging the gap of communication, going directly to the individuals that need this and learning from them what they're looking for and what they perceive as their need, not just what sort of the engineers or the medical community might perceive. How do we bridge that gap, and how do we bring it to the individual that actually is the end user?
And real quick, I know we have more to get to, but you're continuing to innovate, and you've got some new technology just on the market. Tell us.
Yeah, about a week ago, we launched the Atom X, which is the world's first touchscreen controlled hearing aid. I actually have it right here next to me. So in the spirit of constant innovation, Audion had to create a product that was even easier to use, right? Even more intuitive, even better fitting. So, you've got the left ear here. I'll show it in my ear canal so everyone can see what this product actually looks like when worn. So right now I'm wearing it. I don't know if you could tell. This is the first touchscreen controlled hearing aid. You can see here, there's a button to kind of turn it on and off. To control it, literally, it's the touch of a finger. So for the first time ever, you can just control the volume level simply with the tip of your finger. With the modes, the listening modes, we've introduced a comfort mode to help people transition into wearing hearing aids and let their brain have the time to adjust. Conversation, crowd, TV. I mean, literally, I can just tap it with the tip of a finger back and forth. And then last but not least, we added a toggle of Bluetooth optional that you can connect to your phone with no mobile app required. Just the hearing aid, the case, and your phone if you'd like, where you can do full hands-free audio streaming, take phone calls from the hearing aid, and it's a hearing aid that happens to be a headphone. not the opposite, which is a headphone that we're trying to make a hearing aid, right? So this is the first of its kind in the entire world. It's going to be on shelves nationwide in Walmart in 3 days, and then going to be launching nationwide in Walgreens in November. It's also going to be launching nationwide in Staples, and then another partner that I can't publicly announce yet, but they're a big one that you guys have definitely heard of. So this is the Atom X, our latest innovation, and we're really proud of it and grateful to the hundreds of thousands of customers that provided feedback that led to this ultimate innovation.
Since we have a doctor in the house, Mike, do you want to say anything about the role of hearing in the patients you serve?
Ishan has said it better than I can. It's incredibly important in preventing isolation and dementia. The greatest danger of all is stress, and the greatest reduction in stress is posse. That is people you connect with. It's posse, purpose, and play. And a hearing device allows you to do that. I've been a big fan of the FDA allowing, if you will, over the counter and of Audion. I didn't know Ishan, but I've been a fan of Audion. I'm hoping that the new um, con, if you will. Um, Consumer outlet that he's mentioning that he hasn't mentioned yet is either Costco or something similar to that. I haven't got him quite to smile to admit that or not, but in any case, Walmart is a great source of that. So congratulations, and Ishan, I look forward to trying the new device with with my patients because it is the non-wearing and the non acceptability of the hearing device is a major problem. So lowering it from $5,000 to $7,000 and not paid for by Medicare and Medicaid and other insurance companies, bringing it down to the $100 range is unbelievable. So
Yeah,
thank
fun
you.
fact, the Atom
Thank
X here is only $389 for all that functionality. We have our 98, 289, we have a 389. So we're really trying to stay rooted in our mission of affordability and accessibility. And Mike, I'd love
thank
to
you.
talk to you and connect with you after, Mary or Fred, I'm sure you guys can connect us. I think there's an incredible thing we could do in partnership with the Cleveland Clinic to bring this thing to the main stage and help not only the patients you see, but I hear 100,000 families that work in this phenomenal medical infrastructure that probably, could use a solution that could help their loved ones too.
And so, Fred,
Thank
this
you.
is why I changed my title to Chief Longevity Officer, because I was very inspired by the way the Cleveland Clinic, under Mike's leadership, got everyone healthy. And part of what a Chief Longevity Officer could do is have your own uh, employees and teams healthy. But so now let's turn to.
You're also the queen of connectivity, but for another.
I used to joke that hearing loss was saving marriages, but I think it's better if we can all hear each other, especially in this world. Um, I want to turn to our friend at Super Aging News, co-author of an exciting new book and workbook, David Kravitz. Congratulations,
Thank
David.
you.
And recently in the New York Post on Fox Digital, give us an overview of the Super Aging Workbook.
Well, the workbook is a continuation of our first book, which was Super Aging, Getting Older Without Getting Old, which is our mantra. And I represent two interesting things on this panel. First of all, whether you believe it or not, I'm actually the oldest person on the panel. I'm a few months older than Dr. Mike from his bio, or maybe a year older. Um, and I'm a career ad guy. I'm a layman. I'm not somebody from the industry. I'm not from the health services or the technology side. But I spent many years with a media company in Canada that specialized in the quote unquote older market. So I came at it from a marketer's point of view. And about 15 years ago, I wrote a book called The New Old, which detailed how the baby boomers, of which I am one, and Dr. Mike is one, we're changing the definition of aging because and I can afford to say this because I'm a boomer, the first ever me generation, a narcissistic generation, a type A generation. We were the most important people ever for advertisers when we were kids, when we were teenagers with rock and roll, when we were hippies with Woodstock. We would instantly became yuppies without batting an eye, from Woodstock to Wall Street without any embarrassment. We were the king of the hill. All of a sudden, we approach our 60s, and I'm not going to be my grandfather. The hell with that. I don't ever want to get off the stage. So it was an attitudinal book. It was about the reinvention of aging, and it was not dependent on longevity. It was even if, because at that time, even if I don't live a day longer than my grandfather, I'm not going to be him. I'm not going to be old. I don't want to hear old. I don't want to be old. And then along comes all the developments that Dr. Mike has tracked. And all of a sudden, hey, you know what? I can actually have this attitude of youthfulness and of not wanting to get old and actually live longer. Oh my God, what a double whammy. What talk about two lines intersecting in exactly the right place. And now I want to know about all these things I got to do. So my co-author, Larry Wolf, who's also of the same vintage and was also in advertising, we decided to create the Super Aging book, the first book, and we see ourselves as curators of the information. So everything we write about is sourced to a doctor, to a scientist, to Harvard, to Stanford. None of it, we didn't dream up any of it. We're not doctors, we're not fitness trainers, we're not nutritionists. We're the guys that go out and collect it because we realize for our generation, there's now an overwhelming onslaught of information. How do I organize it? How do I make sense out of it? So we wrote the book and we identified 7 pillars of what we called getting older without getting old. And that was our, we're ad guys. That was our tagline. All of us are going to be an hour older an hour from now. So the getting older part, the calendar takes care of. Do you have to be old? Well, what does old mean? So we identified, first of all, what we call default aging. And I'll try and shorten this, but it's important. Default aging is the model we all grew up with, and it's still prevalent in many parts of our society. And it basically says at 65, the traditional age of retirement, you're now playing defense. You don't have much longer to do anything really exciting. God willing, you will be pain-free and relatively healthy, and it'll be a gentle downward slope to the finish line, but you're done. You don't have any shot at really doing. Once in a while, there might be some outlier, but you're done. The super aging model says that at age 65, I could have 30 years to go. I could become a centenarian. There's 101,000 centenarians in the United States, the fastest growing age group in percentage terms. So if I think I've got 30 years to go, 40 years, granted that any one of us can get hit by a bolt of lightning, but if I think I have it, what am I going to do during that time? So number one, how do I keep it going? And I am thrilled off the charts to hear Dr. Mike say, hang in there another 5 years, wait till you see what's available. And we absolutely have to get you onto our website, to our audience, to talk about that some more. But we identified a group of people that say, wait a minute, this is actually possible. I count myself in the population that believes it is possible. Tell me what these 7 A's are. Tell me what I got to do. And the 7 A's started with attitude, because to us, attitude is like the halo that overlies everything else. The other 6 A's follow from attitude because we know, and guys are going to be more familiar with some of these studies than me, that positive attitude equals longevity because positive attitude reduces stress. Stress reduces inflammation. Inflammation is the #1 age-related cause of disease. And so and we had articles and studies about this. So we wrote the book, Super Aging, and that was that one. And the second one was awareness, keeping up with all the knowledge. How do you stay aware of everything? And the other 5 were all about achievement, accomplishment, exercise, activity, and we organized them all. And then as we wrote the book, and it was a bestseller in its category on Amazon in 23, we realized this information is exploding every single day. We can't just write the book and put it on the bookshelf and then pat ourselves. What about keeping it up? So we created the website about 16 months ago. We've only been at it for 16 months. So we're we're new, but our audience, we have over 50,000 active users. We have 1 million impressions a month on social media. You wouldn't believe how this audience is on social media. And the super aging audience, therefore, is active, proactive. They are actively seeking what you guys are communicating. We've written every Ishan, every statement you made about the importance of hearing, we've written an article about that. Every study you've cited has been on our website, and our audience is gobbling it up. But they are ready for the atom like you wouldn't believe. And obviously, I want to talk to you about getting you into our world. But we are a subset, therefore, of aging, of people who believe that it's possible and it's doable if only someone will give them the information they're ready to go. That's number one. And the workbook, therefore, is an offshoot of the hardcover, and it contains, as the name workbook implies, pick up a pen, there's quizzes, there's charts, there's worksheets, there's an interactivity that gets you into the process of, it's not just about health, it's about income. Where are you going to get the money if you're going to live that long? We had a popular article on our website, Should You Fire Your Financial Planner? We write about this all the time. JP Morgan Asset Management told its advisors to assume that every client 65 years old who's a non-smoker is going to live to 100. Start with that assumption. Now what are you going to do? Employment. We have a section on our website called Work and Unretirement. And we don't necessarily mean continuing to get a paycheck from the same employer, but staying active, staying in the game, doing something. There's a whole body of knowledge that's unexplored, or we're trying to start, about entrepreneurship and being a baby boomer, being a senior, starting a new. More Americans want to start a new business than retire at 65. That's a whole new trend. So we've got a lot of information, but we serve an audience that wants this, that is actively seeking this. And the last thought I'll make before I throw it open to, and I want to connect with both of you guys badly afterwards, is we also see the super agers. It's substantially baby boomers. That's the generation that's moving into, let's say, 75 plus years old and dominating that sector. So it isn't just older people that can live longer. It's a particular cohort of older people, the boomers, who are bringing with them all these attitudes into that space. So you shouldn't just be thinking of age, you should be thinking of the psychograph. Who am I talking to? And we represent the most desirable subset of that. There's others, and there's other issues. But one of the things our group thinks, and I'm particularly excited about, is when you talked about 90 is the new 40. We see the super agers as kind of pioneers, going through this new forest with a machete and carving out the first paths toward a future with this, by today's standards, insane longevity. And I would, not to contradict Dr. Mike, but I would venture to put up another way of looking at the same thing in the future. 90 is not going to be the new 40. That's going to be 90. At 90, you're going to do all these things. You're going to have this amount of time left. I have a 3-month-old granddaughter, God bless her, and she's going to grow up. To her, I thought in a previous podcast with somebody else, I said 125 would be the norm, the expected norm, which by today's standards, half your life you'll spend as somebody on Social Security, or more than that. And we already have, for the first time, which I'm sure Dr. Mike is well aware of because of what Cleveland Clinic, we already have the first ever parent-child both on Social Security in history. A 65-year-old today in the United States could easily have a 85, 90-year-old parent still living. So we got 2 generations on Social Security. What does that mean? So all of these, so we're also interested in some of the social, aspects of it. But in some, I'm here, I hope you, Dr. Mike and Ishan, will both be encouraged, because there is a subset of people, and it's a big one, who are actively believers in what you're saying, actively pursuing what it is you're talking about. We see ourselves as a place they can come. We have a newsletter, we have a website. We just launched a brain game offering. But especially on social media, They want it. They want to know about it. They want to hear about it. And we aim to supply it. And we'd love to have you both in our world. And because I can assure you, especially if there's products to sell like the longevity and the Atom X, we got a market, we got an audience that'll gobble that up. So I appreciate being here and great meeting you, everybody.
You know, in January, the boomers turn 80. So, and it
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
different generation. I was talking to a colleague who was at the Who concert this weekend, and as they were singing the song, talking about my generation, they're 82. So, Mike, my friends live by the posse, purpose, and play concept. In fact, we're all going to celebrate our 77th birthday at the beach in Santa Cruz next
yeah,
week. And that really seems to have caught on with all of us. It's an
yeah.
easy concept to understand. But what are your thoughts about what David is saying?
Well, I think it is, as he has said, there is a active group that wants to learn, and curating it is what I also do, what we do in the coaching. So that's a important concept because a lot of stuff on the internet, if you look at it, so from a scientific standpoint, our scientific advisory board has vetted now 55 supplements that have been recommended to us, of which 17 have more benefit than risk. For those over 50, supplements and small molecules. It is in the Oprah sphere, if you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. In 2004, we started to say, you get a car and you get a statin, you get a statin, and you get a statin, and you get a statin because the benefit overwhelmed the risk. Well, the same thing is now true with the GLP-1s in low doses. You get a GLP-1 and a statin, you get a GLP-1. Well, actually, there are 17 supplements that now have more benefit than risk. And there are a lot of, if you will, mechanical devices, such as a hearing device that works, that is inexpensive, that is a brain game. David
Yeah.
brought up brain games, so speed of processing brain games have been shown, and to just 18 hours over a 10-year period decreases dementia risk from age 73 to 83 by over 40%.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of substantial improvements. I talked about the therapeutic plasma exchange. Well, that actually is the only thing that's been shown to reverse early Alzheimer's disease, not to slow the progress, but actually to reverse it. So there are a lot of things that are now need curating and coming along. So the having a super age website, I think, is a very valuable thing.
Thank you.
Well, I've heard you, Dr. Mike, talk at length about the importance of reducing stress. If you have any tips, real quick, on how so many of us who feel stressed these days, a lot of people, any quick tips on how to handle that?
It is posse, purpose, and play. But in addition to that, I like the double deep breathing. Put your finger on your belly button, take a breath in, hold it, take another breath, and your belly button should go out rather than in. So focus on your finger. Most of our belly buttons go in at that point because we're chest breathers and not diaphragm breathers. And if you do that through an inspiratory resistance device at the same time, it's essentially a straw that gets narrower. You actually strengthen the second most important muscle in your body, which is your diaphragm. So double deep breathing through an inspiratory resistance device. Ishan, when you sell the new hearing aid device, sell it with a inexpensive giveaway, an inexpensive inspiratory resistance device, and you'll be helping people in three ways: reducing stress, increasing their diaphragmatic stress and strength, so that they'll be able to speak louder and at the same time hear better.
I mean, I'd love to
I
talk
think
to you
that's
about
the
that
dream.
after this to understand more, and frankly, we could get that in the hands of thousands of people a day.
That's terrific. I've invested in one, and Ishan, I do think hearing comes into play in a big way when we talk about stress.
I mean,
If you
one thing I
have
love
hearing
about
loss,
this.
it's got to be tremendously stressful.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one thing I love about this conversation and listening to, Dr. Mike and David, and by the way, David, absolutely would love to connect with you about the super age community. I mean, that just sounds wonderful. I think we could do a lot to help them and help each other and spreading that
Wonderful.
awareness
Thank you.
after this. But when I listen to what Dr. Mike and David are saying, what I love about this is I consider hearing loss and really just hearing at the root of everything they're discussing, right? The purpose and
Yeah.
play, the posse purpose and play, right? Like you have a really hard time doing any of that if you cannot hear and interact with the people you're with. You think of the community that David is building up and supporting here in the Super Age community, and it's the same concept of it's
Yes,
about
it
coming
is.
together, communicating, connecting, having a purpose, a tribe almost of people that are deciding that you know what, I want to live, not slowly die, right? I'm here to live all the way.
Yeah. We call it thrive. We call it thrive, not survive.
I love that. Thrive, not survive. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a great way to encompass that. And so hearing loss is really at the root of all of that.
Yes.
Like I really view us as the support infrastructure, the pillar or the foundation underneath with which, all of us can live our fullest lives, which I think we can all agree we were given five senses for a reason, and all
Yeah.
five of them really matter, right?
Yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
think there's a really fair and strong argument to be made that hearing is proving itself to be the most important sense in longevity and brain health and social health. I often say, we're not a hearing aid company, and that's just the tip of the spear and kind of where we're starting. We're ultimately a social and cognitive wellness platform and a health platform, which
Yes.
is really the direction Audi and Hearing is going. Soon Audi and Hearing will be Audi and Health, in the next few
Yeah.
years. Like I can say that with absolute certainty because it's not just the direction we've intended to move in, but as David and Dr. Mike have said, like it's simply the future, right? From everything from the supplements that are now coming out to establish even further longevity. And I'm excited to be friends with Dr. Mike for a couple of reasons. One, I want to learn a lot from him, but two, selfishly, I'd love to get access to all these amazing advancements that he seems to be
Yes.
pioneering over there with his friends. And two, with what David has said here, and I love David. You self-identify as a layman. I would really much, although I guess you could really say I'm an industry expert at this point.
Yes.
I very much started in that category, right? Like I'm not a doctor or an audiologist or an engineer. I actually dropped out of college when I was 20, although albeit I had a very strong academic background, I'll admit, up to that point. I very much have done this in the grassroots approach.
I'll bet
And
your mom beat it into you to be educated.
yeah, the last name Patel carries all the stereotypes you have in your mind. You're looking at an A student, that's for sure. So, to Fred's question on stress is that like at the end of the day, like not what is stress. I don't mean that in a medical sense because I'm sure Dr. Mike could explain that phenomenally, but really like from an emotional sense, it's a lack of connecting with your purpose. It's a lack of fulfillment. It's rooted in fear, negativity, and sort of those low frequency states of existence. And hearing aids and our hearing aids, and not just our product, but like our company, our lifeblood, our own sentiment and emotion coming directly from me, the CEO and one of the co-founders, down to the very hearing specialist that you can call and rely on. We are all here to help remove that stress from your life, to help uplift your quality of life and help you live a fuller and better life. That is our why. That is our purpose here. It's not just to get a device in the hands of people that need it, right? That's just the what. The how and the why is helping people live their fullest life and taking that stress of hearing loss at the root of stressing every single thing that Dr. Mike and David have now mentioned, and hopefully turning that into a positive.
Well, the
And what
science,
you've done in making it accessible is a key component. So thank you.
Yeah. I
I
just want
appreciate
to,
that.
if I could just add one little riff on this, is that our audience believes all this is possible and are looking for all these, as I said, but there's a steady supply of information. So I mean, it's just like one article that happens to be the lead article on our homepage today, on our page. Um, It says, what are nearly 100,000 Japanese centenarians doing right? So
I
it
love
was a
that.
study. It was a scientific study, and there's 100,000. Japan just hit 100,000 centenarians with 132 million people. There's 101,000 centenarians in the United States with 350 million people. So they have a third the population, the same number of centenarians. Is there a group, is there some data that we can extract from this? And none of the results are going to surprise you, but
Nope.
they did analyze it, and they found that there were behavioral keys. They didn't go into the biology of each person, and they were exactly what you've talked about. One was what you're eating, what you're ingesting. One was this first one. The second one, movement as a way of life, that they incorporated movement. They don't go to the gym for a 3 hour where they walk, they cycle, they garden, but the third was social connections, a strong social connection, whether it's support networks are very common. As you may know from the Blue Zones in Okinawa, they create a lifelong friend in childhood who the two of them stay together. It's part of their ritual. So social connections, intergenerational living. So none of this stuff is rocket science, but it attached to all of them. This is what got them there. And so our audience would read an article like this, and and they'd say, I can do all that. We've had big results, and Dr. Mike might be interested because it's quasi-medical, and writing about exercise snacks, writing about little brief bursts of exercise, 10 minutes a day, twice a day, that's better than just sitting doing nothing. Motion doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to the gym, but our audience might say, well, I can't afford the gym. I can't afford a 3 hour workout. I can't it's too complicated. It's too much. Okay, try this. So they're looking for these techniques, and the accessibility. I cannot tell you how important the audience message is, because the accessibility and the affordability of it, they don't need persuading that they need it. They need informing about where they can get it.
And support
And
support when they get it,
and
right?
support when they get it. And I am going to be, you probably don't need any more sales of AdamX, but I will be one. I will go get one because I don't have a
Okay,
hearing aid. And
we're gonna have to tell
yeah,
you
you
how
have a
and where to.
sale. You have a sale.
So
But my audience wants to know about that big time, because they believe that a series of steps that they can take, that they're empowered within their own lives to take, all these different things that are doable. They're not impossible. They don't depend on some genetic, some DNA that I was either born with or not born with. And
so
so it's a very optimistic outlook.
let's tell everyone where to get information.
Right.
And
I think for Ishan, Audien Hearing, AUDIEN, hearing.com. And Dr. Mike, where are we heading now to get your help and wisdom?
It's forlongevity.com. It's the where you can get a free newsletter as well as find out your actual age, which is the shorter form of our real age program, and the coaching program. So it's the number four, Youngevity, YOUNGEVITY. So we're in a way trying to start a new category, which is younger for longer.
Oh,
That's
sorry,
terrific.
Nori wants to say hi. Say
And
hello to the world, Nori. And
oh, I love that. Okay.
David, congratulations on the
Thank
new
you.
book.
And very simple and intuitive, superagingnews.com.
We look
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing hopefully all of you in Washington at the National
I hope
Press
so.
Club,
I'd love it.
December 15th, 16th, and 17th. So thank you, David, Ishan, and
Thank
Dr.
you for
Mike.
having us.
thank you. Please
you.
connect us as well. I really
Yeah.
look
Thank you.
into the
Yeah,
conversation
for
with
sure.
everyone.
For sure.
And
Thank you. Look forward to it.
Mary, before we go, you have a wonderful friend and mentor that we'd like to pay tribute to.
Yes, I had the privilege of having Mort Meyerson as a mentor and also as a friend. And some of you may know Mort's work from EDS. Some of you have been to the Symphony Hall in Dallas, which was the Meyerson Symphony Hall. and also called the Mort. He inspired many, many entrepreneurs. He's the one who taught me how to have a board meeting and how to make your board meetings fun and have people want to come to the board meetings. When it was the best of times, he invested in my company after, get this, after he found out that he said, I really can't be on any more boards. But then I said, well, you know, your father, Brutus Meyerson, was active on SeniorNet. That was many, many decades ago. He said, okay, I will join your advisory board. His name lives on. He inspired so many entrepreneurs. He was on the cover of Fast Company magazine twice. I want to visit the Meyerson Symphony Hall, and he will be missed by so many people. He lived a life of integrity and leadership, and that's certainly what he taught me to do and to follow my dreams. And I remember one time I said, but what would I do? He said, you would shine a light on people that causes that matter. I think he'd be proud of this
Absolutely.
podcast today.
Well, beautiful,
Thank
Mary.
you. Beautiful.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you to our sponsors, Super Aging News, a great source for reliable information on longevity and much more, and wellness, work, on retirement. You've heard it all. Sign up for the free newsletter at superagingnews.com. And Tokyo-based Living Best, a user-first age tech initiative from the Carter Group that screens and adapts promising ventures and connects them with commercial opportunities and capital in Japan. Learn how they're empowering successful age tech investment in Japan, the world's most aged society. For more, visit living-best.tech. We appreciate all of you for taking the time to watch or listen. It was time well spent. Please help to spread the word, and remember, you can always find more at maryfurlong.com/podcast.